We felt very strongly when we got the material that this was a story that had to be told, that thousands of people had disappeared into these prisons, and there were thousands of families that didn't have answers today. Um, and that even though the Assad regime is gone and these bodies are gone, that there are still families who are left in that turmoil and that torture of not knowing.
Because what we witnessed through checking these photos is that almost like three quarters, like 3 in 4 bodies were, showing signs of extreme starvation. And most of them were naked, like two-thirds of all the men were naked on the photos. And we also checked if they have any kind of injuries, and of course they had both body and face injuries. And injuries are, mixed of stabs and bruises and many kind of other wounds that, to be honest, to a certain extent, we are not able to even classify because they look so gruesome that we are not even sure what we are actually seeing and witnessing in these photos. And of course, we had like a complete classification of all the things that we were checking, but one of the things that was really next to this starvation that went really high in percentages in the bodies is also like physical harm. Like almost 70% of the people had some signs of physical harm on them.
We went and we counted them, and that's how we came up with a number of 10,212. So we knew between 2015 and 2024 we had this amount of people. We saw changes as well in the detainees over time. The worst images were from 2015, 2016, 2017. That's where there was 70% of the bodies. I think the worst year actually was 2016. There was 3,166 bodies then in that one year. And you were seeing bodies stacked up like firewood almost in the back of a truck in terrible conditions. And it was very, very challenging. By the time we got to 2024, you could see that the detainees, they had been receiving medical treatment, that there were uniforms, that there was often a white sheet shroud that they were lying on top of. But there were still signs of torture and abuse.
I have to say this is probably one of the most difficult projects we have ever worked on from, like a personal human perspective, of course.
I think I'm going to remember seeing the stacks of bodies in the back of the truck with like rodent droppings around them. I think I'm gonna remember the first time I saw some of the pictures of these naked men who've been starved to death. I felt winded because I sort of lost my breath for a moment because it was so shocking. My personal life has kind of been on hold during this project. Well, we just really wanted to tell this story as much as possible. So I think it's affected all of us deeply. I think a lot of the partners talked about how it was affecting their sleep as well.
Every single time when there is a new image open in front of your screen, you think, oh my God, and it has been really challenging to certain moments. And what I've noticed for myself is that I became extremely anxious. But around the completely different parts of my life. So I really hope that this can create some sort of like a larger scale push towards this type of resolving this type of war crimes, basically. But I mean, I have to say that I'm not super optimistic about it, unfortunately. But I really hope that on the other side, many of these families get to know what has happened to their loved ones.
I really hope for peace for as many families as possible to come from this, and also for a global push for Bashar al-Assad to somehow one day to be held accountable for his horrific crimes and his cronies and everyone underneath him, and what the genocide he committed against his own people.